So this is a very niche area, by the way. It's all about mobile apps. So we are not going to talk about the generic or conventional DevOps practices. It's all about mobile apps release cycle CI/CD process. I will try to give you maybe a perspective if you guys are not involved in mobile applications release cycle in your organization. Hopefully you are not, by the way, because I know it's a pain. Yeah, it is. So that's why we exist, by the way. I mean, as I said, it's a very niche area, and I know you guys probably have no interest in mobile applications cycles, and most of the companies, most of the enterprises are giving all this burden on the mobile team's shoulders. And that is the common practice that we observe. Obviously, there are a lot of companies in the world. They have mobile-specific DevOps teams, just like mobile-first companies like Uber or, I don't know, Spotify, Netflix. Those kind of companies are investing a lot, on their CI/CD processes. That's why they are sometimes developing their own tools as well. But we are talking about tens or hundreds of people here only focusing on the mobile CI/CD. So what we provide as AppCircle is only a mobile-specific tool. It's a low-code platform. It's helping the DevOps engineers that they don't have to, take care of anything of the mobile applications, as well as the mobile developers who have no idea what the Jenkins is. So we are basically bridging the gap. We are filling this, the problem. We are trying to fill this chasm by helping them. So let's try to understand, first of all, what is the difference between the backend and mobile CI/CD. So almost probably everyone here except me already knows what the CI/CD is, this eternal symbol of the DevOps. But what about mobile? So mobile practices are completely different. What are they? I just try to give you the big picture during the release cycle of a mobile application. Maybe most of you already know that. If there are people have no idea how a mobile application is just being developed until to the publish process, this is more or less can give you some texture, but I will help you a little bit more by giving you some brand names. For example, these are the Git providers, Bucket, GitHub, or GitLab. So the story starting from the pushing the code to the repo, right? And then there is a building process, and here the big guys are entering to the game, including the conventional the CI tools like Jenkins, Azure Pipelines, Azure DevOps they call it as well, GitHub Actions, GitLab CI, Circle CI. So these are the CI providers that you already know. And there is also a signing process as well. And after the signing process, there are third-party tools that you are using for code review, for security, for automation testing. There are a lot of different providers all around the world. And after the testing process, obviously, you have to make a distribution to the devices, because in the backend, as you know, you just deploy it, and you make your tests on the browsers. But in the mobile, there is a device world, and there are a lot of devices. There are different versions, there are different iPhones, different inches, tablets, and different devices like watches, TVs, etc. So when all this complexity comes in, then there is a requirement to use a tool. I'm not talking about just one tool, there are different tools. I just try to give you a couple of examples, like 45 SonarCube. You already know that because these are the tools that you use also in the backend world, but tools like BrowserStack, Sauce Labs, or AppDome, these are for security and testing automation. And after your test package is ready, you are using Firebase or something equivalent to distribute that binary to the testing teams. And that is another pain point, because you don't have it on the backend side, but you have to distribute them to the QA teams. It's not only automation, but probably you are using also real device testing. And to do that, you have to distribute your application in a secure way, and you have to authenticate your users. If you're using, for example, Firebase, you have to authenticate your users with Gmail. But if you are not allowed to do that, if you're a government entity or a company who is not willing to work exactly with Google, then you have a problem. You have to find another tool to make this distribution. I'm not talking about distributing a binary to 2, 3 testers. I'm talking about hundreds. And then, obviously, there is an authentication point as well, because you have to authenticate your users who have access to your CI/CD, to your pipelines. So you have to be authenticated with your own identity access management solution with some global providers like Okta or Entra ID anyway. And then you have to publish. If everything is okay, then you have to publish your application to the app stores, like Google Play. And then here, there is another tool that you have to use. Probably most of the companies that I see here are already using this Fastlane tool in order to deploy or submit your mobile application to the stores. If you realize there are a lot of different tools, but trust me, most of them are already being used by your organization right now, because otherwise you cannot, release your mobile application. And finally, you deploy your application to the public stores like Google Play or App Store, or you could be using a mobile device management solution like Microsoft's Intune. And then there is another pain point, because if you want to publish your internal application, your employees, for example, maybe you guys are already using some company application, and distributing that application is another pain point, because when you distribute it, you have to pay to Microsoft for Intune, and if you want to automatically update those applications, then you cannot do that. If you want to do that, you have to do that manually, or you have to use another tool again. So just to wrap up, this is the big picture. A lot of tools, a lot of integrations, which you are very familiar with. But in the end, you have to automate everything as the DevOps people here. So what are the basic differences? I mean, we just try to gather some important points or milestones to highlight the differentiation points. So for continuous integration, we call it traditional CI. I already talked about the solutions here. So there are already enterprise-grade tools. Global big companies are providing all these tools. There are also open-source tools as well. But when it comes to the mobile, you have to get the specific operating system knowledge, which means you have to understand what Apple says in their latest Congress. You have to be aware of the latest updates, because otherwise you cannot deliver your application to the store. It's impossible. And also you have to know the best practices, which is important. And mobile-specific tools are already mentioned about that, because without them, you cannot even make distribution, regardless from the publishing process. For the deployment, as you know, you can directly deploy to the server on the backend. But in the mobile, unfortunately, as you perfectly imagine, every single time, if you have an update, you have to create the package from scratch. You have to build it. You have to sign it. You have to test it. And you have to publish it again to the final users, to the end users. Because this is the process. Because there is a device, and that device has the application. And you have to deliver the application to that device one by one, which means there is a publish process. So the testing distribution, I already mentioned about that. It's another point, because you have to use a tool. If you are working with different testers, I'm not talking about the automation tests, by the way, because you can already manage the automation tests with single integration. But if you have real device tests with the QA teams that you already possess, then you have to make a distribution. And authentication is a very, very big pain point during that testing distribution side. And the code signing management. So just a metaphor, by the way. If I ask any of you where your company's SSL certificate is, probably your C-levels, your directors, whatever, they will know, right? I mean, there is no way that they don't. But if I ask you where is your XYZ applications iOS certificate, probably you have no idea. And your security have no idea at all. Probably one of the guys from your mobile team will know, yeah, it was somewhere, but I'm not sure if he's been laid off or not. No idea. Yeah, let's call him. So this is the story all around the world, by the way. It's not something, just a metaphor, but it's a fact. So that's why a centralized vault management, or let's say, secret management is very key. But now, I'm not talking about keeping secrets on repo. I'm not talking about keeping secrets on somebody's device, but somewhere centralized, controlled, authenticated place I'm talking about. And the hotfix deployment, as I said, on the backend side, you already know. I don't have to tell you the story. You know better than me. But when it comes to the mobile, again, you have to create your application from scratch. And finally, the KPIs are different, which we are going to mention about that. So these are the DORA metrics. I'm not an expert on the DORA metrics, but it's a cool way to, tell people, these differences between the backend and the mobile, because the big companies, the IT giants, are working on these kind of metrics on the backend side and on the IT industry. But I'm not even sure if there is a standard or something to measure the KPIs on the mobile side. So we just try to do that with our existing customer base. We kind of run a research, let's say, an assessment with the customers. And these are the answers that we get from our own customer base. So they say that, what does look good on the mobile side if you apply the DORA metrics? So a deployment frequency under 2 weeks already looks amazing, I'm telling you. I mean, probably doesn't mean anything to you if you just consider the backend side. But as I said, I mean, if you are able to make a deployment under 2 weeks, you are doing great. Actually, you are like a train. And for example, lead time for changes, if you are able to do that under 3 days, I mean, it's a kind of, perfect stuff that you can deliver. But it is not the same on the backend side. All I'm trying to say, the world is different. The dynamics are different, KPIs are different, change failure rates under 5%, you are already doing great, again. So all these metrics are different, applied different, and approached different. So what is the requirement in the end? So requirement is saving developer time, because most of the developers are working on their devices to build the applications. And I'm just telling you, if you don't have a pipeline, a proper pipeline, I'm talking about a centralized pipeline, if you don't have it for your mobile teams, probably they're spending 60 or 70% of their times for building the applications every single time. Even if they're getting just the test runs on their own devices, they're spending, again, almost 40–50% of their total time on building the application, depending on their devices, obviously. And streamlining app testing and distribution is a requirement, as you will be willing to apply all CI/CD practices. Keeping your data secure, there is no need to say that. And increasing your governance, and obviously removing dependencies on specific people. I was exactly trying to mean that most of the companies are relying on some specific people. These are mostly mobile developers who has some, kind of CI/CD experience or release cycle experience. So all the burden on their shoulders. So they're trying to, keep up with the streamlining the mobile app release cycle. And when they're going out of the company, then it becomes a huge problem. So the solution that we provide is an enterprise-grade mobile CI/CD platform. What we are doing, we are gathering all this building, testing, and publishing processes under a platform. It's a low-code platform in the end, but it could be used as SaaS and self-hosted. This is important because I can understand a SaaS platform will be way more beneficial to the most of the companies in terms of practices, because all the value proposition that we are talking about here to decrease the dependencies and the other stuff and to be more efficient, obviously we would like to offer everyone a SaaS solution, but unfortunately the real world is not working like that. And most of the organizations and enterprises still require self-hosted solutions. I'm not just talking about the private cloud solutions, but real on-premises solutions. So this is what we provide also. And obviously, we are trying to save time, mostly on developer building process. and to provide a scalable environment is very important because most of the companies are trying to understand what if I scale up my existing pipeline like 10 times more than now after my transformation will be concluded, then the answer is very important. Not only financially, by the way, but also the technical capabilities. It is just, clicking a button, or I will have to make huge integrations again and again. And increasing the code efficiency and more focus on PR, et cetera, et cetera. I will try to keep the advertisements as less as possible, as I promised. So these are some examples of the global customers that we are talking. I just try to put from every single industry and geographical, regions, so that you can understand from finance to the government, from retail to the heavy industry. We provide almost every single industry because it's okay to have only one mobile app in the pipeline. Then we can help. And these are some feedbacks from some customers from different areas. As you can see, there are huge increases on the efficiency and the other stuff. So thank you very much. And before to go to the questions, maybe I can just show you the UI, because the UI is kind of important for. I'm not sure if I can show you the UI anyway, but. Is that possible that I can just switch the, yeah, I can do that. Perfect. The reason why I'm trying to show you this UI, not to tell you how the product is working, but to show you how the product is easy to use specifically for the mobile developers. Because as you can imagine, mobile developers have no idea about Jenkins, have no idea about Azure pipelines or YAML scripts or anything that you guys are helping, or your teams are helping to them. But what we provide is just a low-code platform. It's just ClickOps. They're just clicking, dragging, dropping something, creating a pipeline, and they're ready to go. So this is what we are doing. Obviously, you don't need maybe such low-code platform as automation engineers or DevOps engineers or engineering leaders, but at least you can give them a chance, under your supervision, obviously, to manage the mobile pipelines. That's it. Thank you very much.